On this episode of ResiWeek, Dish adds Google Assistant remotes and Circadian lighting systems. All this and more on this episode of ResiWeek.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is ResiWeek, episode 184. Give Alexa a chance.
Support for AVNation is brought to you by
Peerless AV, driving technology through innovation.
And by FSR.
Welcome to ResiWeek. This is your weekly wrap-up of all the latest news and stories for the residential AV industry. I'm your host, Matt D. Scott for AVNation.tv. And this week we are pleased to be joined by my good friend Todd Puma. He is the president of the Source Home Theater. How you doing, Todd?
Doing well, Matt. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for being here. Then we have Mark Feinberg. He is the president of Home Theater Advisors. How are you, sir?
Doing great, Matt. Thanks again for having me on.
Thank you. This is an all East Coast show, and we are wrapping it up as we go up the line with Bob Archer. He is the senior editor at CE Pro. How are you, sir?
Excellent.
Thank you so much for being here. All right, gentlemen, let's kick this off with a story that comes to us from Residential Tech Today. Dish has activated Google Assistant and debuted a new Google-branded voice remote. If you are unaware of Dish's Hopper family of receivers, it is now going to allow their customers to access the Google Assistant directly via the Dish voice remote. The existing one, as well as the brand new integrated and labeled one that is looking nice like that. Todd, I want to start with you on this one. Why do you think that Dish went the Google direction over the other elephant in the room, Alexa? What any insight to why they would make that singular choice?
I guess to kind of differentiate themselves from the other manufacturers that all go in the Alexa route. You know, there is a lot of people out there that request having Google in their homes. They like the voice control a little better. They feel it's a little more fluent, and it actually gets the commands right versus Alexa. You know, for my own personal preference, I'm not a fan of any voice control at this point. I even tell my customers that they have to sign a waiver if they're going to be going in that direction, because it is not at 100% capacity. It's something that we're offering to a client. We want to make sure that we could live by it, stand by it, and also believe in it. Google Home has been, or Google Voice has been, one of those rare cases where we had more success with it than Amazon. So I'm feeling maybe in that Dish case that one of their CEOs or engineers or development people had something of that experience themselves, and they kind of went in that direction over going in the elephant in the room, like you said, Alexa.
Very good. Mark, when you see this, the big takeaway I have from all of these kind of stories that revolve around, you know, voice and the easy to use aspect of things like the Hopper remote, at what point does this remote and the functionality of this outweigh 90% of the functionality of something that's direct and mainstream in the CI level?
Yeah, and that's a challenge we always face, right? Our clients always look at us and say, hey, my Spectrum remote and my Fios remote, who are our two main carriers here, have voice control. Why can't I have this with this fancy, expensive universal remote you just sold me? We're not a Crestron house like Todd, so we don't have the TSR with voice capabilities with Control 4, and there's no voice yet.
Or no control either. I mean, sorry, my apologies.
Oh, ouch. So they, you know, the story with that is, first of all, this remote, from what I read in the article, it looks like the big benefit of the Google Assistant is not really controlling the dish. It's really getting ancillary information, maybe sports scores, or asking a question about a movie you're watching and seeing that result up on the screen. Feels almost more intrusive to me, and I don't really see, I don't want whatever I'm watching is my escape. That's why I'm watching TV. I don't know if I want to have that interrupted because I want to know, the score of a game. I'd rather look on a different screen to get that. That's a personal thing. But screaming over to TV to get an answer to something seems disruptive unless you're alone. If you're with other people, I think it'd be a little disruptive. But yeah, it is going to put more pressure on the CI industry and the products we sell, because customers see the marketing and want the latest and greatest, even if, as Todd said, even if it's not fully baked and it's disruptive and it's accurate 60 or 70% of the time. They see the marketing, they see, the successes of it and what does work, and they want it. And that can be a little frustrating for us.
Very good. Speaking of disruption and all that fun stuff, Bob, when you follow these stories, and I saved this question for you because I feel that you'll be kind of the best position to answer this. No matter what essentially the consumer reports that come out say, are customers really looking for voice? Do they really want voice control on their remotes, on their TVs? Or is that, again, just one of those, the people that want it are really, really loud about it, so it makes everyone have the perception that users really want voice?
It kind of reminds me of the whole thing of like the AVR category. You look at these AV receivers and they have every bell and whistle that you could ever think of having. Most of the stuff people don't use. And I think the remotes are probably falling into that same kind of mindset where even if people aren't asking for it, Dish, Comcast, whoever can say, oh, we have that same functionality as all those other companies. So yes, we offer everything that everyone else does. So I think it simply comes down to offering the things that they believe people will want, even if they don't necessarily want it right now.
Very good.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, I can't tell you how many clients we showed like the Siri remote to, and we tell them, if you want to use this, leave it out on the side table or on the coffee table for voice, and we come back a month later and it's put away because they're not using it.
Yeah, I believe that whole market, there is a benefit. Like, let's talk about the one positive that it could be. As being a guitar player, Bob, I think you could agree with this as well, is I would love to say, I want to turn on this song and, get it playing while I'm playing the guitar so I don't have to disrupt my hands from being moved from the positioning and going to my iPhone, which I do every day. Every single day I do try to give that Alexa a chance, and it's getting better at doing the music coordination versus lighting, shading, and, all the third-party aspects that it could do with a control system. It's not able to navigate well or to complete the commands based on my knowledge, right? Because I can't speak the way that Alexa wants me to, is exactly say the name of the room the way it wants me to every single time. So that leaves me in a tough position in order to get the command completed. Now, our customers, they're going to feel the same way, but when I guess you're introducing it more and more to the bigger parties like Dish or DirecTV and, Verizon, and the list goes on, that's more of a chance for them to get better and to grow in those categories, which maybe later on down the road, it could be something that I'm utilizing more often, and I'm hoping to utilize more often for the sake of my customers based on every request. As Mark was saying, marketing sells and marketing brings customers to us, but sometimes we're not able to deliver based upon the lack of equipment doing what it's saying it's going to be able to do in all categories that they supply it and market it as able to do.
Well, hold on for a second, though, because
Sure.
you hit a really good point that I want to pull out. You said that you can't always say things in the right way that Alexa wants you to say.
Correct.
That any different than when you hand a customer a remote or show them a touchscreen, say, okay, so you want to play the music in this room, go to music, go to this room and hit what you want to play. Is it not just teaching and showing customers, or yourself in this case, the proper, in voice control language, the proper sequence of commands to get that to happen? Is it not just training?
It's all about training, right? And I blame this on myself, right? Because when I'm speaking, I'm not always I can't always remember what I'm going to say based on the command. I'm not that polished every single time to train myself, every single time to say it the same exact way. That's a fault on mine. No, there's a big portion. That's what I stated. I will blame the portion on myself. But again, my customers are feeling the same thing. Based on, okay, living room lamp, light on, left, living room this, or whatever the commands may be. I'm trying to make it easier for them to understand and to be able to use it through Alexa, but it's not coming across just like it would if you were able to type it in on an iPhone and get it done that way. And also I have a thick Jersey accent.
I mean, I think, Matt, to your point, it's on a remote, there's visual cues, right? They look at the screen like, oh, what am I supposed to press? Oh, yeah, I see these like 5 options for Apple TV, cable, whatever. And there's a visual cue. And it's the same process or the same flow through every room, through everything. And when they get to their lights and there's 50 loads, they can scroll through and pick the load.
Yeah.
You start talking about lights, there's 50 loads in the house. What are those lights called? Are those the living room recessed soffit?
Yes.
Or is that the living room soffit? Like you have to remember what everything's called. That's a lot harder to do.
Right. And the average New York City home is having up to 14 lighting loads based upon a 1-bedroom apartment. Now that's just average in New York City. So that's a little bit easier to navigate through. But then when you start to add shades and you're adding other rooms, it starts getting more complex. And like you stated, a lot of the homes are getting to the point where it's 50 loads or more. And that's just even more confusion in order to make that control. Now, there's other solutions out there that are more CI-centric, which I'm not going to bring up names, but they probably do a better job at that at this point. But again, that's getting into bed with something that I still haven't fully supported at this point.
I do think Dish deserves credit. If you remember a couple of years ago, they came out with their own voice remote control. I think this is, in a way, them acknowledging the fact that maybe it wasn't all that robust. And I think we've all tried these voice control products. Siri is the most maddening. I'm the biggest Apple fanboy, but Siri drives me insane, at least with Dish partnering with Google on this. You know that Google's ahead of the syntax game in all of this. They've clearly delineated themselves as a leader, and maybe this will help Dish at least get ahead in all this voice control remote stuff.
Yeah, very good. I will say that every time that we've implemented voice, I feel like we're implementing the old school control systems we used to do 10, 15 years ago, where you literally printed out the sheet of paper with the commands and said, all right, here's how you do it. Step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4.
and here are the individual commands for all 150 devices in the house.
Now, I will push back on that a little bit. Most people don't need to control, their 15 lights in their living room from their voice. They need to control a scene or control 1 or 2. But yes, your point is well.
They don't need to, but they want to.
But that's what we're all about, right? We're a luxury brand, right? We sell the experience, and that's what we're trying to bring to them. But I think everybody could agree here. It's a challenge to give the customer everything marketing says we should give them. It's easier to build a system based upon things that we know and guarantee can work based on experience. Living, eating the groceries, as I would say, is when you're living with a product you're using on a daily basis, you know how it works and you give it a shot. And if you're confident with it, you give it to the market. And, at this point, my confidence is low. And I know Mark could agree with that based on conversations we have daily, but it's just something that I'm praying and hoping it will get better. And I know it will. It's just progression, right? And they're going to be investing in it.
It's still a very young technology in all reality. It's been out for a couple of years. Speaking of lighting, since we went down that rabbit hole, let's go down another one. This one comes to us from CE Pro, Human-Centric Lighting. Show us the Circadian algorithms. This is from the one and only Julie Jacobson, who has been all about biophilia and wellness these days. The story goes on to really highlight what Savant is doing in their circadian lighting program and how they're giving the end user a lot more control over how that works. And she goes on to talk about how we've talked circadian rhythm for quite a while, but no one's really got it yet. And Savant's got a really good attempt out there, and time will see how well this progresses in the real world. Mark, I want to start with you on this one. I'm a big lighting guy. I follow lighting fairly aggressively. It's probably the technology that I follow more than anything else. When I read through this article, I agree and disagree with Julie. I agree that yes, the plug and play algorithm set is not there yet, and it has never been there. And then I look at it from, the pro control, like show development side of lighting using DMX and all those other things, and say, yeah, people have been able to do this for quite a while. It's just not implemented as well. Are you, what camp are you in as far as seeing where the algorithms are and looking at whether that's something that you want a plug and play aspect or we're going to build this from scratch for each client?
I feel like I'm like the negative Nelly today on this call. I kind of feel like it's kind of similar to where voice was a few years ago. I think it's so in its infancy. It has to be plug and play. I think trying to customize it on our end is just going to run into clients getting frustrated that it's not in sync. It's not, they're home on Tuesday where they usually aren't, or the kids are out of school today and the circadian rhythms are off. You're going to run into that whole issue before all the control systems allowed end user customization of their lighting scenes, right? They're going to be calling us every other day to fix things or reprogram things. I think it needs to be plug and play. It needs to be learning. I think there was a reference in the article to Nest. It needs to be learning like Nest. And even with Nest, I get client complaints that, they're always adjusting it. It's not learning as well as the marketing says it should be. This is similar to, I feel like, where we were in voice. It's way not even close to where we are in voice, and it's not anything. I'm not a savant dealer, but I can't imagine touching this at this point. I have, and also, we do more middle market. What was that? A little negative. Put a big X over my face today. I have enough. We do more middle market. Our jobs are, smaller apartments. We're not doing 7-story townhouses. We're not doing 10,000 square foot homes. We're doing 1,000 to 2,500 square foot apartments in New York, which are still, $2 to $4 million homes, but they're smaller. And I still have a challenge selling lighting automation to a lot of these clients. Right. I can't imagine trying to sell circadian rhythm to them.
See, I would disagree with Mark with the middle market. I've been disagreeing with him since day one that in New York City, there is no middle market, and where he's playing and the grounds he's playing on, it's all the high-end market. And his challenges by selling lighting, I could agree. It's not always easy. It's really, we're fighting with the designers most of the time that don't think that the lighting is necessarily needed. But in the play in Mark's, camp, I agree with him in a lot of it. I really do.
And also, for lighting control in the city, it's often a single apartment. It might be 3 bedrooms. You might have 20 loads. The cost benefit, you're not running up and down stairs trying to turn lights on and off. That goodbye button has less value to a client.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Robert, when you follow this, is this something that is posed for prime time? Is this something that will ever be in our working lives? Do you see this being something that the average homeowner, average DIY individual goes into a Home Depot and buys something that allows them to achieve this?
I think, yes. The question is, what kind of timeline are you looking at? Julie is awesome at identifying these trends and these technologies. She was, on the home control bandwagon 25 years ago. And it's taken this long for the market to mature to the level where it is now. This could be her new home automation. The question with all of this is, if people want it now, it probably isn't ready for prime time. 5-10 years from now, who knows? If these technologies mature rapidly, it could be something that some guy walks into Home Depot and asks the person in the aisle, "Hey, can I hook this up?" And yeah, it could be a turnkey product, but right now it's pretty advanced. It's pretty far out there for anyone to consider as turnkey plug and play.
Very good. Todd, one of my, and I'm all on board on this, just to set this clear. I love, but again, I'm a lighting nerd, so I'm all about this. But when I look at this, when I look at how to functionally achieve this, all it really requires is a lot of back-end programming. Don't get me wrong. But for the end user, they just need buttons that allow them to adjust a schedule. Not unlike their HVAC, not unlike their pool pumps, not unlike, heck, their lighting that we do today. So that when they walk in the door early at 4, it doesn't screw up everything for the rest of the day when they're normally not home. How long is it going to take to kind of pull off Bob's point there? How long is it going to take before this becomes a, dare I say, standard within at least our CI community? Not DIY, not Home Depot, but within our community, who is arguably best prepared for this. Futurecast, put on your future hat for a minute. How far out before we actually start to see this?
I'd say this is what I believe. Lutron and Savant are on the bandwagon. That means we're not too far out because they want to be investing in something that was, 5 years out in the future. What I believe is that this is something that would probably be implemented or being brought up from customer base fairly soon, within the year to 2 years. Lutron, was it Philips Hue and all those other manufacturers came up with something similar. You could change the light based on the mood, change the colors of the LEDs. Customers understand the LED strips, and they're getting more involved in that. So I believe they've been already introduced to it, and now this is at a bigger scale. This is at a whole house scale. What I do think is going to happen is that people like myself are very interested in, before I bash it or before I go against it, I want to learn about it. I want to see it in person. I want to see what it can do. Then that can open up my eyes to the bigger horizon, what this is for. Like yourself, you understand lighting, you love lighting, and you have a different way of thinking about it. My thinking of lighting is a little bit more narrow-minded because of my lack of education in the area. But something like this, when Mark and I were talking earlier, it's something that could be extremely problematic or something that's extremely profitable. And as a business, this is what we want to do, right? We want to be able to keep ourselves as a value. Okay, what do we offer? All right, TV sales down. This sales down. Networking is getting easier. So this will help us to keep a different avenue of revenue to increase us to a level we need to just sustain our business or to grow our business. I think this is something like shading that's going to blow up and something that's going to make us a lot of money if we get on the bandwagon now to educate ourselves and to kind of utilize it. What are the benefits? What can it do? What can it do? And how we can introduce it to our customers at a lower end of it. Like you said, building only buttons they need, time of day scenes. A person gets home, maybe Mark earlier to his point, give credit on this, is occupancy sensors based on time of day. So it will kind of know a little bit more than actually giving itself to learn the environment. Because I'm always afraid of that because of the Nest experience that I personally had in my home and customer experiences that have been addressed in the past. I'm not all for learning it. Yeah. Like learn this.
But I agree with Todd and Robert. I mean, I think in that, if you're looking in that 3 to 5, 6 year range, I could see this becoming more of a little more mainstream. I was thinking more in the 1 to 2 years is where I was getting that negativity. But if you look a little further out, where this becomes a little more mainstream, I think it's probably to start out. I see it coming up maybe a little bit more along the DIY route. Bulb by bulb kind of thing, almost like Hue did with color, as Todd said, like color temperatures and things like that, and then being able to do it with replace a dimmer with a dimmer that has a light sensor in it.
And I think that's the really interesting aspect of this, is because of the industry that we're all in, we look at this strictly at the high end. And hey, how do I throw this onto Homeworks or onto C4's panelized system or Crestron's panelized system? But when you look at, if you step it back a minute and look at where the first control for LEDs, and not traditional LEDs, but RGB LEDs, color LEDs, and color shifting, that was being done in all of our mainstream platforms that we use, but it was really expensive and really, really complicated. Hue came out with a bulb that for $220 in an app, you could control everything and do it simply. To me, that's the one thing that this Circadian concept will always have an ultra high end standpoint, but I think it's the really innovative companies, and honestly, probably a smaller company that's going to jump on this, say, "Ooh, we can do this, and we can do this like this," and they'll think about it in a non-traditional way and bounce something out, kind of a la the lines of obviously Hue or Nest or something like that. I think it's going to be really interesting to watch.
I could agree with that 100% because Hue helped me to sell more lighting control. Hue and brands like Sonos helped me to sell more parts in the audio distribution. Even Fios, when they came up with their multi-room controller and how they're able to control the boxes, that helped me to sell video distribution with the Apple TVs and miscellaneous other third-party parts. And this is something that is going to be able to help us grow in those areas, and also another avenue to educate the client. There's a part in me where I was always against the DIY products because of fear. I was always afraid that the DIY products got so easy, I was never going to be needed. Mark always bashed me, and Mark always told me, listen, you got to change your mindset and try this and try that. And you know what? Ever since I've been trying brands like Eero, which is my favorite brand right now, Sonos, which is one of my go-to media servers, and other third-party brands that Mark introduced me to that I was pushing against, I was kicking myself in the butt now because I could have made so much money throughout the past if I wasn't so stubborn and narrow-minded. And this is another avenue where it's like, you know what? I want to learn it. I want to be like one of those integrators that are making hand over fist because they're trying new things. They're able to engage into the new, just like Crestron Home. Just like other party products, it's getting easier to program and easier to set up, which is a benefit to our customers because they're paying less for programming fees, and they're also getting a better solution that's supported 100% by the manufacturer. And we're getting in, getting out, and as Rich Fregoso say, getting paid. That's the key to all this, and everyone's happy in the long run.
That's 100% the key. All right, gentlemen, let's leave it there. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Bob, if people want to connect with you, learn more about CE Pro, where can they do that?
They can go to cepro.com, or they can find me on Twitter too. I hate to say it off the top of my head, I'm drawing a complete blank on my Twitter handle, but it's out there, so I'm easy enough to find.
Very good. Thanks again for being here. Mark, if people want to connect with you and learn more about Home Theater Advisors, where can they do that?
Old school, Mark at hometheateradvisors.com, or just the website hometheateradvisors.com, and Facebook, facebook.com/hometheateradvisors.
Very good. And Todd, my good friend.
Bob, I can't remember my Twitter handle either. I think it's either HP Advisors or Home Theater Advisors. I can't.
Yeah.
Just follow them both. We'll help,
exactly.
We'll help somebody else out as well. Thank you so much, Todd, for being here. If people want to connect with you, learn more about The Source Home Theater, where can they do that?
They can find me on all platforms. Very simple, at The Source Home Theater. And that's all you have to do. You'll be able to follow anything my business is doing.
Beautiful. Excellent. Thank you guys again for joining us. If you'd like to connect with me, you can find me at Matt D. Scott on Twitter. And more importantly, please stop by AVNation.tv, where you'll find this show as well as a wide variety of other shows with all the verticals that we cover. When you visit the website, please take a moment to check out our supporters. We are extremely thankful for their support and ask that you support them as well. Thanks again for watching. That's all the time we have for this episode of ResiWeek.